And it is another Thursday, and we're going to table the other conversation that we was having because that's an
Yes,
interesting one. It's an interesting one, but that's not something that
that's
is.
not for today.
I would
That's
say that's not it's not geek culture related here. It could
nope.
be if somebody wrote a comic book about it, but nah,
Anyway,
nah. But
how are
welcome
you
to.
today?
I'm doing all right. And again, I kind of wish Cliff was here because it's almost education time because we're going to talk about what we have in our thumbnail today, which is Birdman.
He's excited.
Yes. Now, a lot of people may not remember. Everybody probably remember Birdman, Attorney at Law, and the appearances that he made probably in like Cartoon Planet and Space Ghost Coast to Coast here. But Birdman was an actual 1960s cartoon series
He was a
back in the
superhero.
day, back in the day and everything. And it was an interesting one because the character had powers from the sun. He was solar powered. So he had solar powered beam, solar powered shield. He had, I'm not certain if his wings were artificial or natural. That was the other thing here.
I
And
never
everybody
figured that
remembers
out.
that he was pretty much kind of like an agent. I forgot what the agency was called here by name, but he was always being called by Falcon Seiben, and Seven is Seiben, just like in the actual Harvey Birdman attorney at law. And he was kind of like the handler and everything. And even today was like we don't have too much as far as Birdman of his origins from the original cartoon series. People still remember a lot of the stuff from Attorney at Law and the jokes that they were made from Attorney at Law and everything. And I'm up here, waiting for like either like, well, during that time, I think DC brought him back in like a short series. I think it was like Future Quest for a little bit and a couple of other things here, but there has never been a Birdman comic book series outside of the TV superheroes that they did in Delkey for a long time ago here. He made a couple appearances there. Unlike his counterpart Space Ghost, Space Ghost had several comic book series both from DC, Dynamite, and a couple other things just recently. But Birdman has not had that type of revival as of yet. And I've always been one of those ones that's like, if I ever got that nod to go ahead and write Birdman, I would actually write him a little bit differently. I would probably lean heavier into the fact that he was a part of international security, but I would explain his powers a little bit better than what the actual original cartoon series did.
I always thought he was part of that same sort of, um, not the exact agency, but sort of like, there are different areas of the galaxy and different agencies took care of those areas. So like, Spaceman had his section, and then what's the one we covered a couple of weeks ago? The guy who could do the gas and the girl who could do gravity.
Oh, you're talking about the Galaxy Trio.
The gal
Galaxy
the
Trio, that
Galaxy
was the
Trio.
Galaxy Garrison, you know,
But
governing
I
that.
I always thought they were always part of the same universe.
Mhm,
They just operated. I was a kid, okay?
mhm.
Leave me alone. Um, I just always I envisioned them as being part of the same universe, but just different sections of it. So like Space Ghost was handling this group, this part over here. The Galaxy Trio was doing
Herculoid was over there
the
doing their thing.
Herculoids. Yeah, so they were all. I always pictured them as always being part of the same galaxy, but maybe not the same galaxy, but the same universe and different times within it. Which is what
The
it's
different
like.
times
Okay,
might be accurate. The different
yeah,
times might be accurate.
which is why you don't see the Galaxy Trio hanging out with the Hercules or whatnot. It's like, well, they could be in
Well,
different time. They could be in different eras. One group coming before or after the other. Hanna Barbera never made it clear. And as a kid, you just kind of, because in the comic books, you kind of know who belongs to what era of whatnot and how they connect, they interconnect or not. Whereas, you know, in the cartoon world, you often don't. And so it was like, okay, you know, Johnny Quest and them never hang out, even though it's the same type of animation style originally and stuff. It's like, okay, they never hung out because Space Ghost is in space, and he's probably 100 years past the time in which Johnny and Haji and them were. And
Probably,
so those
probably so. But no, coming back to what you just said, it's like when we did the Herculoids, we did the episode where Space Ghost and the Herculoids actually met for the first time.
But the Galaxy, what I'm saying is the Galaxy Trio. I don't remember the Galaxy Trio and the Herculoids.
Never met, never. I don't think Galaxy Trio have never met the Herculoids.
So I was thinking,
and vice versa. You know, they don't know about one another.
So
but it's a good possibility that Johnny Quest could have met Birdman, because Birdman was during that era and time of things such as Man from U.N.C.L.E. and everything to that magnitude, because one of the main villains of Birdman was an agency that was called FEAR, aka Fear.
Yeah. You know, but yeah, so as a child, I've had other things, so I haven't given too much, but I just remember as a child, that was how I made sense of that whole Hanna-Barbera galaxy. You know, it was like the Flintstones didn't hang out with the Jetsons because they were in two different, you know,
two different time areas.
They were like millennia apart. And it wasn't until, I can't remember when they did that Simpsons Jetsons meetup, where I think either the Jetsons and the Flintstones. And I think the Flintstones get thrown forward in time, or the Jetsons.
I thought the Jetsons went backwards in time because they invented a time machine. They went back, and then when they came back to the present, they accidentally brought something from the past back over.
Yeah, and they kind of screwed up, and then they had to get back together with the Flintstones to fix the screw up and make sure it didn't happen. But you know, it's like, but other than that, they were times apart. They were centuries, you know, apart, and so you could make sense of that stuff. Oh,
just like
prehistoric, and
it's almost like what they did with one of these Scooby-Doo movies here, The Curse of the 13th Ghost. I'm not certain if you remember the TV series, The 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo.
Yes, I do, because not totally, but it's one of those things my youngest has sat and watched, and I have occasionally come down to watch a few minutes of it with them, just to, you know, just out of the habit of, I used to always make sure to sit down and watch a couple of episodes of whatever he was watching, just to have an idea of what he was watching. So because sometimes he'll come in my room or I'm in the kitchen or something, and he'll want to tell me he gets excited about something. He'll want to tell me about something that he's seen. So it's like to have an idea of what he's talking about, right, other than just standing there going, that's nice, you know, when doing dishes or whatever.
Well, getting into that, the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo was for a long period of time was not considered canon to the rest of the Scooby-Doo franchise. Because remember, 13 Ghosts did not have Fred nor Velma.
No, I think it was primarily focused on Shaggy and Scooby. It would focus
on Daphne, Shaggy, Scooby, Scrappy, and they introduced another character called Flim Flam.
That's right, because I know Scrappy Doo was in it, because
they introduced Flim Flam in this one, and it was never considered canon, but it was also the one series that they never truly finished because they only captured 12 of the 13.
And it was interesting. It came out after the movie, if I remember the timelines correct. It came out after the movie 13 Ghosts, which is why
you talking about the standard Scooby-Doo movie.
No, there is a movie that was called 13 Ghosts.
The Curse of the 13 Ghosts. It's called the Curse of the 13 Ghosts.
No, it's just called 13 Ghosts, and it's a horror film.
Oh, you're talking about something completely different. I know which movie that you're talking about.
Yeah,
now. I'm not talking about that one.
Yeah,
And I
but
thought about that one.
I thought it was interesting. I didn't see that series until after. And John and I had actually watched the movie because he's a Tony Shalhoub fan.
Hmm.
He's actually a fan of Tony Shalhoub. And so he had seen Monk, and I was watching. He's like, "That's Monk," and it's like his name is Tony Shalhoub, and he was like, and I said, "It's a spooky movie. It's very spooky," and he was like, "Gonna watch. Monk is smart. Monk gets out of stuff." I'm like,
Hmm.
"Not the same character," but and since then we have watched it together a few times.
Hmm.
So when he found the 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo, he actually thought it was kind of funny that in some ways it kind of reminded him of that film.
Okay,
Was that
that's weird. That's weird. But
well? The thing is they do have to find and contain these ghosts and
right,
destroy these,
they have to put it back in this particular.
and then they have to destroy the machine so that they cannot be resurrected again.
Well, that
Or
was not a
human
part of the
trafficking.
Scooby. That was not a part of the Scooby Doo
No, it's
mythos here, but that was
but
part of the movie. That was part
yeah,
of the
that was
movie
part
itself.
of the movie, and so that was but he was like, oh, so they have to capture this ghost. And we talked about it, and it was like, yeah, but because he was like, these ghosts aren't as scary as the movie ghosts. And it's like, no, sweetie, because they can't do that on the cartoon the way
Right.
they did it in the movie. So the ghosts have to be, they can't be lethal. In the movie, the ghosts are very, very lethal. Poor Matthew Lillard. And it's funny because Matthew Lillard played Shaggy in the live action Scooby Doo movies, and John loved him as Shaggy. So,
and he actually became the voice of Shaggy after whatchamacallit, after Kasem. He was literally the voice of Shaggy from Kasem on. Yeah.
But so and so he really, like I said, he loves him some Scooby Doo.
So did he see the Scooby Doo movie of the Curse of the 13th Ghost?
I think he has.
Okay.
I think he has. If he's either watched it on Nickelodeon or he's caught it on YouTube and whatnot. He hasn't watched it.
You probably don't have Cartoon Network, because I know we just lost Cartoon Network on Xfinity because we refused to pay for a sports package.
I gotta change my Disney account because they once again are raising the price on Hulu, Disney, and ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and I have to call them Monday and say, hey, I will, if you don't let me switch to a cheaper account that is just, because I've never wanted ESPN, but when they first set up the package, you had to take ESPN if you wanted to get Disney Plus. And John really loves Disney Plus. So it's like, fine. And then I tried once before to get rid of ESPN and they wouldn't let me.
Right.
So I have to call them Monday and say, you know what, we have a choice. You can either let me change my package to just Hulu and Disney Plus and get rid of ESPN, or I get rid of it altogether because I'm not paying you guys $25 a month.
Right.
Especially since a third of that content I have and will never watch. So that just makes no sense.
Well, the reason I keep bringing up that movie, Curse of the 13th Ghost, is because that was the way that they finally made the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo canon for the whole entire franchise. Because they now went back, and Fred and Velma now realized what happened that one summer that they weren't together.
Okay. So Fred and Velma were off each of them doing their own thing.
They were doing their own thing that one summer when the Curse of the when the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo actually happened.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
They finally saw the crystal ball. They finally found out about Vincent Van Gogh, and they finally found out about the original chest that they had to put the 13 Ghosts back into. The movie, if I could say it this way without being ultra spoily, had a twist in it that was never thought about until the very end.
I don't think I ever watched more than a few minutes of the movie. Um, and I will say, I was a Scooby Doo fan when I was little,
Mm-hmm.
and just growing up, I got more into manga and comics and stuff like that, and I just wasn't as interested in Scooby, especially for a while. The was it Voice and Heart wrote a lot of that Saturday morning music, the
All right.
Scooby Doo music, some of the Monkey songs, the Scooby Doo music, Josie and the Pussycat stuff, the Archies especially. Voice and
Right.
Heart did a lot of the Archies. And there was a time, I think the music in the romps is like that part where they're being chased
Right.
by down the ghost. They switched the music style. Voice and Heart were no longer doing the music, and it's like, well, I like them, I don't like them, so I'm done. And like I said, I had found other things, and also it was coming at a time when I was also being, especially as I got older, I started having more chores to do during my cartoon time.
Right.
So it was like towards the end there, I only got so much time for cartoon time, especially since my sister didn't like everything I liked. And my mother, we had one TV, and my mother's attitude was like, "Well, you don't get the entire TV for Saturday morning, you know." And I got stuff for you to do anyway. So
Right.
there is a lot of stuff towards that 70s, like 72, 73, 74, 75 on, that I didn't get to see as much.
Mm-hmm.
Because I also went and I was staying with my dad, and his household had different attitudes about Saturday morning cartoons,
Okay.
what we couldn't watch. So there was a lot of stuff as the years went by, from like 14 to about 18 or so. I didn't get a lot of choice because
Okay.
it was okay. It's not the Elaine show. You don't get to decide what everybody else is going to watch.
Exactly.
So,
But the cool thing about that particular movie, before we get back over to Birdman, was one, we got to finally see a more grown up Flim Flam, because remember Flim Flam was about 8 or 9 during the
okay,
original TV show, and by the time we get to this movie, he's about 21.
okay. See, this is where I wish I could
And
have John here, because, like I said, he knows that series backwards
right.
and forwards,
And the
and I
other
do not.
and the other thing here is that this movie also put the kibosh on Scrappy. Like Scrappy never existed.
Scrappy existed. There was a whole series that featured Scrappy Doo.
No, the cartoon series, there were several cartoon series that had Scrappy Doo up in it.
And he's
But
in the
as
first
far
live
as the
action film.
canon, but as far as the franchise, the Scooby Doo canon,
Well, wait a minute. No,
Scrappy Doo does not exist.
Scrappy is the bad guy in the first live action Scooby Doo movie. Scrappy is the villain.
Right, Scrappy is a villain in the live action movies, and he has made several appearances
And
in other things here. But as far as the overall canon, when it comes to Mystery Inc.,
hold
he
on.
does not exist. When I say he does not exist, and not to say that the character does not exist, but he's not a member of Mystery Inc.
Excuse me. Close your ears. Jonathan, you will not watch any more Mystery Inc. No more Scooby Doo.
Yeah, Scrappy is not considered canon because of Velma's and Fred's reaction.
He's coming in to kill me.
I guess you're talking to your friends.
No, I was talking to you.
Yeah, no, how to come back? How to come back? Ask him if he's seen
Hi
the
there.
yeah. Ask him if he's seen the movie Curse of the 13th Ghost.
Have you seen the Scooby Doo movie Curse of the 13th Ghost?
No.
Okay.
So he needs to see it. He needs to see it. He would need to see it.
Okay.
because
right.
Flim
Uh-huh.
Flam specifically mentioned it was good to see Daphne, Scooby, and Shaggy, and he specifically asked what happened to Scrappy. Fred's reaction was like,
Who's
"What's a
Scrappy?
Scrappy?" And Velma was like, "We never had a Scrappy on our team."
So that it reset the timeline and wiped Scrappy out. Oh no, he's not gonna watch that. No. I can tell you right now, I am not going to deal with that fallout.
Because again,
Okay.
13 Ghosts had Scrappy, and it was like, yeah, just like whatchamacallit. We don't know what happened to what Scooby Dum. People don't
Oh,
remember Scooby Dum.
he was the country cousin.
Right.
He was the country cousin.
He's not a part, and for some reason, he's not a part of the current canon either.
Oh,
So there's a lot of members of Scooby Doo's family that has
that are
not come
missing.
up ever again. Because remember, they actually showed in different eras of Scooby Doo cartoons, even his mother and father, and
Yes.
they haven't came back up in history. Because
Oh,
because even in the movie Scoob, they made it sound like Scoob was just like this, kind of like this orphan type pup
puppy.
that Shaggy happened to come across. They never talked about his actual mother and father.
Damn. So in the way they were trying to Snoopy him, but with
Mm-hmm.
the whole Charlie Brown story was that Charlie Brown got Snoopy from Daisy Hill Puppy Farm.
Puppy, yeah.
The puppy farm. Now we would call it Puppy Mill, but it was a
Right.
puppy farm. And that Snoopy's brother,
Spike,
who lived in Needles,
mm-hmm.
found him and reached out to him, and then they began to connect with that litter of puppies who had gone all over the place, because he found out he had Spike, he had a sister,
Mm-hmm.
I think he had several little relatives.
That visually came and visited him in canon, in actual canon.
In actual canon. Yeah, I'm not sure how he's going to take that. If he hasn't seen it, I'm not going to encourage him to see it, because
like I said, it was a good little romp of a movie, and it made me happy because they finally made 13 Ghosts part of canon, because for the longest time they said 13 Ghosts never existed in Scooby-Doo history. It's like, yes, it did.
Yeah, but you're not the one who has to deal with the fallout.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not. Did you see?
No, I say I don't have to deal with the fallout in that household. It's like, yeah, I don't have to deal with that fallout in your household.
That's 6 feet.
Yeah.
Okay, that's 6 feet.
Mm-hmm.
I got to deal with a 6 foot fallout. Not happening.
Mm-hmm.
Not happening. No. Will not happen. My fan keeps moving,
mm-hmm.
and that's why you keep seeing me bend over, because I keep having to pull. I have to put the fan in front of my computer because Frankenstein gets a little hot.
Exactly.
So I have to keep the air on him when I'm working, or he'll overheat. But for some reason, this fan has a mind of its own, and it can move. It actually knows how to shift itself. And so I have to keep shifting it back. And no matter what I put in front of him, it doesn't stop. Yeah, and the that camouflage bag that I got from the vet center will hold it, but it also blocks the airflow.
Right.
Which is why I try not to use it if I don't have to. But yeah, so people, when you see me doing this, yeah, I'm trying to deal with my fan. It's my only fan.
Okay, now
to keep that relationship going.
Now, to get back to the point here, why we brought up the whole thing about Scooby-Doo, the same thing happened with Birdman when it went from this particular incarnation from the 1960s to Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law, because Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law is supposed to be him as a retired superhero that became a lawyer,
and
right.
So, but now they're saying that's not canon, or they won't, or because it was satirical.
It was very satirical
It
because
was,
a lot of the villains that he faced are now lawyers themselves.
well, that and a lot of the clients he had, you know, like
Were are superheroes in some form or some fashion,
or
or
heroes. In the case of Scooby and Shaggy, and they were facing the drug charges, and he has to
yes,
defend them. You know, so I know at one point
and
I
Scrappy
think,
Frame doing that one too.
but you know, so yeah, it's I guess Hanna-Barbera says this is our stuff, and you can only do what we say you can do with it. It's like, well, dude, you just gave them a bunch of stuff and said use it, and they said okay. And because they figured out stuff, and it's like it sounds petty on Hanna-Barbera's part, because it's like, I get it. They figured out a way to take your stuff and reimagine it in a way that in some cases, depending on the character, proved more popular, or at least to it, and it introduced
to the next generation. It was more
yeah,
popular to the next
a lot of
generation.
kids. There are a lot of kids who have never seen those cartoons and never have bothered if it wasn't for Space Ghost Coast to Coast and Harvey Birdman,
Attorney at Law.
Those two shows help introduce kids to that Hanna-Barbera universe.
Well, if it wasn't for Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law, we would never have Bird Girl. Because technically Bird Girl made her appearance in the original Birdman series.
Yes. But what I'm saying is it kind of felt petty of them, because it's like it brought you it increased at a time in which people weren't paying much attention to you. You got viewership you weren't expecting. You got new viewership and people who are going to introduce their kids or nephews and nieces and stuff to it. So you should be grateful, because they could have
wasn't overly raunchy or adult where younger kids couldn't watch it. It did have the parental advisory, because there were certain things that was questionable, but they never went that route.
Yeah, and it was never insulting. For those of us who were older, who watched those original shows and remembered it, who didn't wonder if Shaggy and Scooby were, on something, considering their appetites? Back in the day, we called that getting the munchies. And it was a side effect of a certain herb.
And they actually explored it, just like with Wally Gator. They made him the stereotypical redneck. And they put him on trial. Trial saying that they were trying to culturally appropriate, the Southern way of life.
Yeah, but like I said, they weren't insulting the shows, and they weren't insulting the viewership.
No,
which is why new viewers came. People who had never bothered with the cartoons because they either weren't allowed to watch them when they were kids, or by the time they came up, they weren't playing those cartoons anymore.
That was true. And then there was innuendos that were there that, unless you were like really, really an adult, you would never really catch on to some of the aspects of how adult it really was, such as when they put Zan on the witness stand talking about, this was the episode was called Personal Injury. This is where Apache Chief got burnt by a cup of coffee out of Java Lux, and he could not grow anymore. And they kept making member jokes throughout the whole thing. The whole thing.
But it was a great satire, because if I remember at that time, one of the things that people were talking about is people were suing McDonald's or whatever over the temperature of the coffee, coffee being too hot. And it's like, first of all, you're not supposed to be driving with coffee in your lap.
Exactly.
Okay, if you drive and put the coffee between your legs, you got a kink. Okay. You got a kink. They have, don't cover the cup, put it in the cup holder or whatever and get where you're going and then drink your coffee. Have a sip or two before you start the car, put it down, and then get where you're going. Because I don't know. And maybe because I'm a boomer, to me, common sense says don't put your coffee between your legs because you're driving.
Right.
And you're shifting because you're shifting. It's not just shifting gears. You're hitting the gas, you're hitting the brake. Depending on if you have a clutch or not, you're off. There's that other thing. The possibilities for accidents were paramount.
Right.
And to blame it on the temperature of the coffee instead, and I always wonder how were people winning, because it wouldn't have taken much ability by McDonald's lawyers to point out of the problem isn't the temperature of the coffee. The problem is in the ineptitude of the driver to not understand that coffee should not go in your lap.
Well, that's the harder thing to prove. The problem is that they're looking at, well, if they hadn't had the cup of coffee and they had something else like orange juice or something like that, orange juice would have not burnt them or froze them.
Because orange juice is not sold. Nobody's going to get a tin of frozen Tropicana and stick it between.
Well, no. They can still get Tropicana as far as the actual liquid is concerned, but it's not of a temperature that will be scalding hot. But also, again, it's the person's choice versus the product that they bought. And our it's like, well, you're not using the product as designed here. That's just like the person who won the court case about the toothbrush. A toothbrush never comes with instructions, and he sued. I forgot which toothbrush company. I believe it's like Oral-B or something to that magnitude, because the toothbrush never comes with instructions. He said after years of using it, he had gum erosion and everything. He blamed the toothbrush manufacturer for having selling toothbrushes with no instructions.
Children. Okay, I was born in 1961. My mama was born 17 years before me, and my grandma was born, I think about 20-something years before her. Okay, because I was 35 when my grandma was 35 when I was born. Okay, so yeah, my grandma was born 35 years before I came out. Okay, here's the thing. Some things you teach your children. Okay, it is not nobody shows up to your house and says, "Hey, little person, here's how you teach that to your children. How do you brush your teeth? How do you put your clothes on? When you're sitting in a car, don't put a hot beverage between your legs." Because cars move. They move independently of you. So if you do things that are going to cause you accidents or injury because you use something, and if you don't know how to use it, call an older, more intelligent person. Hey, I don't understand how this works. How does this work? And they will tell you. They might laugh at you first if you're in your 30s and you ain't figured this stuff out. But they will tell you. It's like those guys who, for some reason, I've heard there's a new thing where guys don't realize you have to sit down to wipe. I don't know. But it's like, yeah, call somebody, ask a question. Believe me, there is some caring older adult after they stop laughing who will give you that information. And then next time they see you, smack you in the back of the head for being stupid in the first place.
Well, again, I grew up during a day and age where slowly people have lost accountability for their own actions here. When you see criminals win court cases where they end up hurting themselves, breaking into other people's property, only because, oh yeah, I was breaking in through the skylight, I fell through and I ended up falling on a cutting board that had actual knives that was still there, and I ended up cutting myself.
Well, I'm sorry, but You broke into my house, coming through my skylight.
And they won. The fact of the matter is that they won these civil court cases. And I'm just up here like, I just don't get it. I just don't get it.
You know what it is? It's stupid defending stupid, because it's these, I'm sorry, it's stupid defending stupid. Stupid people on the jury letting the stupid go because they're like, well, yeah, I guess if I was breaking in somebody's house and coming in through their skylight and fell, I wouldn't want to fall on knives. I wouldn't want to fall on knives either. So yeah, it's the home. No, it's not the homeowner's fault. You broke in. When you break into somebody, that's like my house. You want to take me to jail because I stabbed your ass? Go ahead. Why? You should not have brought your butt in my house uninvited. If you bring your butt in someone's house uninvited, you get whatever butt whooping is waiting on you. Whether that's, I still remember the time my uncles told me when a dude broke into their house and my aunt Julia was screaming, and my grandma came out of her bedroom with a fireman's axe. Okay. And luckily, this was in the early 70s when stuff like that didn't happen, because our generation maybe made more sense. Because when they dragged him off the jail, he didn't get to sue my grandma. The jury said, hey, because I think he did try to say, well, she came at me with a fireman's axe. And they were like, did she come at you out on the street? And I'm like, no, I was in the house. Were you invited in the house? No, I broke in. You broke into the house. You went into her youngest daughter's bedroom. She's screaming. She doesn't know what my grandmother is in the bedroom next door. She doesn't know what you're doing to her daughter. All she knows is her daughter is screaming bloody murder. So yeah, she came out of her bedroom and came into Julia's bedroom with the fireman's axe, and she had at your butt. A, you were in her house illegally. 3, you were a potential threat to the safety of her teenage daughter. And I think at one point the judge said, you should be lucky she didn't keep you. Because it used to be that if somebody broke into your house and you killed them, so long as you could prove that this wasn't like you had people over at a party, you got into a fight and you killed your friend. It was
no. It's more like they broke into your house. You had significant enough danger to use deadly force, because deadly force was introduced by them breaking in.
Yes.
You have the right to defend yourself. Nowadays, it's like, if you had the opportunity to call 911, the first thing they would be like here is like, well, don't do anything to the criminal. Don't do anything, even if you had the means to defend yourself. It's like, get out the house and let them do whatever they want. It's like, why?
No, see, my call would be, okay, my name is, I am this, I weigh this much, I am this tall, I'm about to kill somebody, come get me. Because he came into my house uninvited through illegal means. One of us is going to be dead or seriously injured. I am not playing. I'm 64 years old. I do not play this.
And again, it's like you would probably spend a couple of nights in jail until somebody with cooler logical heads come and see what's actually happening. And then you would be free to go and this, that, and the other. But it also makes me sad because we are not supposed to have double jeopardy. And I said this during the time of the OJ trials. It's like, in a weird way, what happened to him was technically double jeopardy, because even though he was not convicted as far as the murder itself, they believed that he was culpable and responsible enough on a civil level to deal with that. And they're like, if he was not guilty of that, but yet a civil court can say, oh yeah, there's enough evidence to say that, oh yeah, you kind of sort of caused it to happen in the first place. Your actions led up to a possible means for this to happen. And I'll be like, this is very, very weird. And the court case that I mentioned before, it was also a silver case because the dude was a convicted felon. It is reasonable to believe that the average person in their own house is not going to be up here having knives anywhere else other than on a drawer or on a cutting board.
And usually it's interesting though.
If they fell
I
on
keep
it,
thinking he was lying because I've had cutting boards. I have had a knife thingy. It has slots, all your knives. If you're falling on it, you're not falling on the blades. You're not falling on the blades. You're falling on the handles. The handles stick out. The blades are put in just so if there is an accident, you fall forward or backward, or you're not going to hit a blade. You're going to hit the handles. You might get a little bludgeoning, but you're not going to get stabbed.
Or even if you had the flat ones, normally the blade is sticking down into the board itself, and the handle is sticking up. So
you mean the magnet ones where they lay the magnetized ones where they lay against it? You can just stick it against the magnet.
No, I talk about old school wooden cutting boards where you could literally stick the knife into the board itself.
That's what I'm saying. You have the handles stick out. That the blades themselves are enclosed.
So no. You're thinking about the ones that look like this. It's like it's on an incline. I'm talking about the flat ones. You have the flat ones where it's just nothing but board.
Oh, and
the way that they explained it, it's like the knives are sticking straight down like that. If he fell, he had to fall directly on top of it. He would have hit handle first, and as soon as he hit handle, depending on how he moved, depends on if he get blade or not get blade.
Okay. The oldest ones I seen were flat, but they had slots, and the knives were put in the slots so that the cutting edge of the blade was never up.
Right.
It was always down. So even if he'd have fell on one of those, he would not have gotten cut or stabbed.
And that's what makes me
come into the live edge, which kind of makes it feel like, okay, I get it. You broke into somebody's house and somebody's mom caught you. And before you could do something, she grabbed a knife and decided to teach you what it feels like to be a turkey on Thanksgiving. And you got away, but your ego won't allow you to say, I broke in their house and this woman kicked my butt. So what you're going to do is create this lie to say, I broke in the house, I fell through. Now, he may have come through the skylight, but I'm saying if he was cut up, that was because mama or grandma, an older woman, caught him and decided, I'm gonna treat you like a Christmas ham, and just went carving away. And instead of being able to admit, I got my butt handed to me, that's the lie they came up with.
I believe this. You fell through a skylight. 9 times out of 10, you got cut up by glass. Yeah. Not by blades. You got, because when you hit, even if you had knives standing straight up on a cutting board, you're actually hitting the handles first.
Not the blades.
So if you got cut up, guess what? You fell through glass, and the glass cut you as you fell straight down.
Yeah, but I kind of like.
But like I said, stupid is that stupid does, because it's like only thing you have to do in a silver case is just get it to the point of reasonability. It's not beyond a shadow of a doubt. It's reasonability. It could technically be reasonable that the knife could have been out in such a way where it wasn't secure and he got cut.
Now, see, I would have played it where it could also have been reasonable. Say you weren't cut by you weren't cut by the glass as you came falling through that skylight. That he would have won that case, but he would have been holding his manhood cheap by the time I was done with him, because I would have painted him as a little pansy.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have said, what? The 70-year-old grandma. You came in, you started her. She didn't die of a heart attack because she's 70 years old. She's lived through some stuff. All she saw was a what in the day of her youth they would have called a masher. And she just decided she wasn't going tonight. You were. And you got away, but not before she got a bunch of good licks in. And so I would have framed it in such a way that if he won, he'd have been so embarrassed, because I would have made him out to be the most petty little man.
Mm-hmm.
And that a woman, an older one, I would have made it so like somebody's 80-year-old grandma took his butt to task.
You could make it worse. You could make it worse.
And
you could make it worse. If it's like, oh, so little Fifi got to you. It's like, what's a Fifi, counselor? Well,
toy poodle. A
chihuahua.
I like toy poodles better. They're cuter. I want
a chihuahua. Lit them up.
Well, no, because chihuahuas will get vicious.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm like, no, a toy poodle, grandma's toy poodle, thinking grandma
or a Pomeranian.
They felt they were the only,
a little bitty
they were the only thing standing between a little ball of fluff. Felt they were the only thing standing between you and grandma's safety, and called upon their inner wolf. Somehow made the 6-foot jump in your face. Left them with their little claws and teeth and just went, and you got hurt. Oh, I'm so sorry. Hey, if you hadn't broken into the house to begin with, breaking the law, breaking an entry, which is illegal, this is against the law, you wouldn't have got your butt handed to you. You'd still be okay. You would not have been hurt. But no, you chose to break the law. You weren't invited in. Because when we invite someone in, you come in through the door. You went in through the skylight. You went in with the intention to either steal property or commit. But baby, I'd have turned it into a rape case. By the time I was done, he'd have been in there about to commit some SA. And by the time I was done, I'd have made it look like he was a serial dude. And that if I had enough time, Your Honor, I bet you if I go out there and look, I can find at least 20 victims that this man has touched. But he would have given up. He would have said, I'm sorry. I would have painted him in such a way, I would have either humiliated him or made him look guilty of something far more heinous. I would have suggested he was a devil worshiper looking to break in that house to see if they had a baby, to sacrifice it to the devil. I would have.
Well, you're approaching it more like a criminal case instead of a civil case, because the whole thing about civil is liability. And it's like,
but
look,
I would have said, and I'm just saying,
it's like you can't hold. I would have been like, you can't hold the homeowner liable for your ineptitude and your ability to either open a skylight or something to that magnitude. You can't hold. It's like you're saying that falling on knives that was on a cutting board. And now here's the thing:
it wasn't like they were sitting. It wasn't like the homeowner left them haphazardly on the sink or on the floor. They were put away in their proper place within the sink. See, the fact that you wanted to break into the sanctity of somebody's home, civil case or not, I would have painted him as some sort of serial killer, rapist, Satanist, and he was looking to eat a baby. I would have painted him in such a, and yeah, the judge would have said, Miss Haygood,
it's not a criminal case. It's not a criminal case here. Where's the liability? Where's his liability in accessing this house the way that he shouldn't have. Because the thing that I would look at is like the liability is like he had no business hitting the cutting board. He had no
The
business,
liability is
no
he had no
business
business
falling
coming
through
in.
the skylight. You
And
know, it's like it would have been different if he was there. It's like, oh yeah, I was working on the skylight and this, that, and the other. It's like at 5 o'clock, you know, at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's like, no, nobody works on skylights at 2 o'clock in the morning. This, that, and
except
the other.
cannibalistic, and except for cannibalistic Satan worshiping baby eaters, so that they can break in your house, sneak in, murder your puppy dog, and steal your infant. I would have just, it's like if I
Again, it's not the house owner's fault for your ineptitude to control your own faculties to keep yourself from falling in through somebody's roof to get into their house. It wasn't like they up here said X marked the spot for you to hit this cutting board that may or may not have knives on it, as you stated.
You know, that means if I were to, I just looked at a listing for a gorgeous place, because I'm trying to look at places to move to, and I saw a place in Hyde Park I fell in love with, and it's got a skylight. And the only reason I didn't go physically take a look at it is because it's on the 3rd floor, and they don't have an elevator in the building. And even though it has laundry in the unit, I still got to lug groceries up 3 flights of stairs and garbage down flights of stairs. It's like, no, sorry, not going through that. But now every time I see a skylight, my first thought is, okay, I'm going to have bars set so that just in case some idiot decides he wants to rob me or kill and eat some member of my family, and he's coming through the skylight, I gotta have bars. So if he slips and comes crashing through, he'll hit the bars and not get in.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course I'm going to jail because I will also have a very long pike. Be very pointy end that I can poke him with. He's laying on the bar. It's like, say you're sorry. Say you're sorry.
It wouldn't be that. It's like, oh, you here for the 3rd whole service? Okay, I see. You're bottoming up. Okay, here we go. We're about to start the process.
Oh, my neighbors would hear the screaming. Let the cannibal people come in and worship their dead Lord and eat my family's faces. People would think I would think that way they could all say, we heard her screaming, Your Honor. She was certain that this man was a Satanist cannibal, and he was coming to feast on her family. It's like, yeah, I had a dream that the flesh-eating zombie Satanist cannibal people were attacking us, and he came crashing through my skylight. I was dreaming, Your Honor. I'm in my 60s. You have dreams. What can I do? I got to protect my household. I'm a little old lady. So, yeah, I grabbed my pike because I play D&D. So, when you play D&D, you keep stuff. And, I was just
I'm a LARPer. I'm a LARPer, so we keep this type of stuff just for for cosmetic purposes. Part of our costume and everything.
Entertainment purposes.
There, like,
it's like boop, boop, boop. And I thought it was plastic, but if you shove plastic up with enough force, you can actually puncture someone a little. And I didn't realize it was dark. I didn't have my glasses on, Your Honor. Take a look at these glasses. You can see. You can't see that well through them. I didn't realize he was face down instead of face up. So maybe I got him. Maybe he lost an eyeball because he caught the end of my pipe. But I bet you he won't be breaking in anybody's house anymore.
But then again, I couldn't be. It's like, but then again, I imagine the glass on the floor from where he broke in. It's like, if that was actually real, then he broke in.
He broke in.
It's like, but
and it's like, and Your Honor, I did not kill him. I did not kill him. I stopped short of murder. Let it be heard. Let it, let it be written. I did not kill him. Wasn't my fault if he bled out in the ambulance. That's just, the ambulance worker didn't know what they were doing. I didn't kill him.
But anyway,
when they got him, he was still alive.
Yep. Anyway, getting back to the topic at hand, it is time It's time for us to introduce tonight's. I shouldn't say even entertainment, but it's more along the lines introduction to Birdman here. And yes, it's going to be similar to how it is on the last time that we did this. If the feed does go out here, it will be edited on YouTube. If you're watching from YouTube here, it will be edited out in its entirety here. However, we'll probably make it available later on down the line here if you really wanted to see the full episode here. But 9 times out of 10, it will be shown on one of the other means of looking at this show here. So without further ado, here is Birdman. And I believe that this is Birdman meets Reducto. And for those who know who Reducto is, we're talking about the same lawyer from Birdman Attorney at Law. This is like the origin of Reducto with Birdman.